Hey, hi, how are you? So, have you gone to do an inspection, you've been handed a checklist that looks something like this, 75 pages worth of checkboxes, and you get a hernia just from packing your inspection checklist? Well, this video is for you. I literally was going to title it, Do Your Inspection Checklists Suck? Let Me Help. Your inspection checklists suck. Let me help you make them easier. But, being disparaging is not my style. So let's just jump right into it. And I'm going to talk about inspection checklists and how to make them more efficient, more effective, and, well, easier. So let's talk about inspection checklist mistakes first. Now, not tying them to safety and hazards. And I'm going to dwell on this quite a bit because it's a big mistake I often see. Inspection checklists should not have anything about operations or maintenance on there. They should just be tied to safety and hazards. An inspection is an observational walkthrough of a job site or a work site looking for emerging hazards or ensuring that controls are in place and working as they're intended. Okay? And so not tying them to safety or hazards distracts you from the actual purpose. The other thing is there's no organization or prioritization. Everything is all over the place. And in fact, what is the most important things to look at first should be the primary points in your inspection, and then everything work from there. So think about an order of prioritization. I'll talk about that in just a second. And then no place for notes. All there is checkboxes, and then you get a square this big that says notes. What are you gonna put there? And I did it again. What are you going to put there? Seriously. Yeah. And then, of course, repeatedly, redundant. In other words, it's exit light, exit light, exit light, exit light, fire door, or something to that effect. And there's lots. And often these things happen because we all have our own biases. But once again, if you're repeating yourself in a checklist, then what happens is people start ignoring certain points because they think they're being repeated. And they encompass too much. Okay? And I'll talk more about that as I go along because brevity is the spice of life, really, when it comes to an inspection checklist. And then finally, they're thicker than an encyclopedia. Like I said, 75 pages. Okay? Unnecessary. In fact, I was talking to a colleague earlier this week. Or last week? Yeah, maybe it was last week. We're having a conversation regarding inspection checklists. And he told me about when he was at an organization he worked for. And in one section, the inspection checklist was 45 pages long. 45 pages! How do you write a report on that? Anyway, I don't know. It would have drove me nuts. So here's the secret. Use 5 headings. 5 headings. That's it. Try to stay in camera, Kev. 5 headings. Okay? And here's what they are, and I'll talk about each one. Fire and life safety. Okay? Access-Egress working traffic areas. The building's assets and components as far as they work with health and safety, not maintenance and operations. Tools, equipment, machinery, and materials. I didn't have enough room to fit materials in there and keep the formatting. So tools, equipment, machinery, materials. And then finally, working methods and practices. In other words, how are workers working? Okay? Now, I know you're likely all going to say to me that, Kevin, it's way more than that. Well, you know what? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Okay? I appreciate your comments. I really do. But give me a second give me a bit more than a second and I'll talk more about it, okay? So let's talk about fire and life safety, the first things. Now, you can have just a blank box that says fire and life safety, or you can include a few bullet points, and I'm going to include a few for you. And this is not an exhaustive list, but it's going to help to cut down your checklist a little bit. Okay, exit signs and emergency lights. And you know what happens? I've seen it lots before. People will have their checklist and they'll walk up and they'll see like a bulb's burnt out or the little green man's missing or something, and they'll go check, bad, and then that's it. Is that the only exit light you got in the whole building? Once again, there's my point. The other thing is, little secret here, going to talk about it more as we go along too, exceptional documentation. Stick around, I'll talk more about it in a sec. Okay, fire extinguishers, sprinklers, and suppression systems. Once again, if all the tags are in place, all the inspection records are in place, and there's nothing that's compromising the effective activation of a sprinkler, then you don't have to write anything. It's a clean sheet. Exceptional documentation. What I mean by that is only record hazards, emerging hazards, or ineffective controls. Don't record if stuff is normal and safe. Emergency exits and clearances. In other words, are they blocked? Are they marked accordingly? And are they free of congestion? Emergency exits are great for deliveries because they're usually close to a nice open parking spot. And I've actually seen buildings and organizations where they encourage the delivery at the emergency exit because they know it's going to be clear. Not the purpose. So once again, should be considered in your inspection. Fire doors and their lock deactivation. And so once again, are fire doors being treated like a normal person door? And what I mean by that is that are they being held open by door stops and things like that? Or because they're actually a fire suppression, okay, or a fire separation. I'll talk more about that in a second. What about if they're held open by magnetic locks? Are we keeping track of that? And are we noting that during our fire drills and fire alarm activations? And are we keeping records of it? And then first aid and supplies. And as far as first aid rooms and first aid supplies go, once again, don't expect you to count every Band-Aid, but you want to note things that are the exception to the rule and maybe a hazard or would result in people not getting the correct first aid that they're needing. And then, of course, muster areas. A couple of things with muster areas is, number one, do people know where they are? Number two is, and I've seen this when I've gone to inspect organizations in the wintertime, and I've seen a little bit of a sign that says muster area in a snowbank because it was the best way to put the excess snow. Once again, no. Okay, don't do that. Okay, I see it time and time again. And really and truthfully, people should know where the muster area is, and the muster areas should be kept free and clear. And they're also a really good place to park. No. Okay? Make sure the muster area is the muster area and it's used as it's supposed to be used. The next thing is working traffic areas. And what I mean by that is everywhere that people are going to be moving while they're working. So this includes entrances and exits to and from the working area. Are they clear? Are they uncongested? No tripping hazards. Okay? But beyond that, work areas are they congested? Are they so crowded that you can't move and work without possibly tripping? Because if you're going to possibly trip, then guess what? I know you're thinking you are going to trip. Okay. What about walkways, sidewalks? Okay. A lot of times people ignore them, especially when there's going to be when there's pavers that are heaving, etc., until they fall and trip. So the idea is to be proactive. Once again, not maintenance, not operations, but making sure that there's no developing hazards. Sometimes the two, maintenance and preventing developing hazards, go hand in hand, but still, okay. Walking surfaces. And what I mean by that is just normal areas that people are going to congregate or walk on. And I'm talking about outdoor patios, smoking areas, foyers that aren't in the normal traffic path. A lot of times what happens is they get ignored because nobody cares. And when you ignore something, you're not looking for the emerging hazards, then guess what? The hazards develop. Okay? And then outside stairwells and stairways. What happens is outside stairwells and stairways, once again, are the handrails intact? Are the stairs in good repair and not going to cause a tripping hazard? Out of sight, out of mind. And you want to avoid that for your inspections wherever possible, right? Now, the other thing is, another point is, I know, getting close, this is the fourth one, the building's components or the building's assets and components. And what I'm talking about is inside stairwells and railings. Same thing as the outside stairwells and railings, but you want to pay attention to them. Once again, not for maintenance, but if the handrails are broken or if they're damaged and people aren't using them, then guess what? It's a hazard waiting for a place to hit somebody or make contact with somebody. Same thing if there's broken nosing. This is not a maintenance check. This is actually a safety check. Then, of course, fire doors and lock deactivation. Now, I know I'm being repetitively redundant. However, what I'm talking about here is, are they being used as a person door? Because they are a fire separation. And if they're being held open with door stops and that, then they're not a fire separation, are they? Okay, so, and you know what? It differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So make sure that this is the idea of you're looking at it for compliance and safety in the event of a fire. What about guardrails and fixed ladders? Guardrails on mezzanines, guardrails around the top of a fixed ladder. Often what happens is you'll get a guardrail and a fixed ladder that intersects it, and there'll be a chain that's across it so that the guardrail has integrity, but that chain's not connected anymore, or people have taken it away, or whatever the case may be. Not only that, fixed ladders, if they're not used very often, people neglect to consider them. And if a rung gets broken or a rail is out of place or whatever the case may be, or not attached to the wall properly, then it becomes a hazard. So they should be part of that consideration. Mechanical and electrical rooms should be not used as storerooms. Okay, once again, it's not a maintenance and operation thing, but are we storing lubricants and tools in the mechanical room? Or are we doing the same thing with the electrical rooms? Okay, they're supposed to be clear and nothing is in there. If you need to bring tools in, you bring tools in. You don't store them there. And then, of course, the next piece, and this is really important, is defaced or missing or broken administrative controls. And I'm talking about signage or lights. And not exit signs, not the emergency and life safety stuff. I'm talking about like hearing protection worn beyond this point, PPE worn beyond this point, not a pedestrian walkway, etc. Because what happens is without those admin controls, workers are now put in a bad situation versus being safe because they've been able to don their PPE or adopt the controls necessary to enter the area. The other case is that a lot of times workers, by entering an area, can actually cause hazards on their own. So you want to make sure that these administrative controls are in place as they're supposed to be. Now, the next thing is tools, equipment, machinery, materials. Okay? Are the safeguards in place? Okay? Guarding on grinders, saws, etc. A lot of times guards get taken off table saws, so especially if lots of plunge cuts got to happen. Often what happens is safeguards get circumvented or they break and they forgot to get repaired. So are the safeguards in place? Are the interlocks working as they're supposed to? Are the tools and equipment themselves in good repair, or has that forklift got a soft tire? And if it does, it might tip over, etc. What about materials and chemicals? Are they being stored correctly? Are chemicals up on the top shelf where a person may get them in the eyes? Or if there's no mechanical assistance available, are heavy items stored between the shoulders and waist where they're supposed to be in an ergonomic sense? Okay. What about logs? Are logs present? Inspection checklist present? You stop the forklift driver, you're having a safety chat because you're on an inspection and you should be interacting with workers. Maybe ask them to see that inspection checklist or their pre-startup checklist. There you go. What about good storage practices? Okay. Is the racking in good shape and encompasses the rest of it, where materials and chemicals are being stored, and how are we storing them? Are there good storage practices being used? Now, the next piece is extremely important because if you're to look at the elements in a workplace, the people, the environment, the equipment and materials, or the equipment and tools, the machinery and the materials, the hardest to influence are people. They really are. And so that's why work practices become important. Are the people, the workers that you see doing the work, following the safe work practices? When you're engaging with them and talking with them, do they ask them about them? Are they using correct body mechanics? These are things you want to note in the checklist. And if they are, once again, you don't have to correct them. But if they're being stooped over and bent over, or bending to the side or twisting, obviously this is something you want to record. But even at an admin area, is their keyboard and mouse on the same level? Are they sitting upright? Are they maintaining good posture? Are they using the tools and machinery correctly? Are they using the equipment properly? We don't have people standing on the forks and getting lifted up to change lights. We don't have people using screwdrivers as pry bars. We don't have a forklift being used as an engine hoist or something to that effect. We're using the proper tool for the proper job. When you're interacting with folks, do they understand hazard reporting? It's good to interact. Do they understand their emergency response procedures? Can they tell you where the muster area is? These are things that you want to note on the checklist. Once again, if workers can all do that and there's not a problem, then you know what? You can write down that all workers understood their emergency response procedures when asked. There's no problem with that. So realistically, and I'm just going to show you one example, all you have to do is create a Word document with 5 fields in it. Okay, the 5 that I've just gone over. And like I said, you have fire and life safety, for instance. You can put exit signs and emergency lights and all of the headings that I talked about. You can list more, like it's not an exhaustive list, but you've got space for notes. And once again, an inspection checklist isn't a map. You don't drive with your head down. Mind you, we have GPS now and heads-up displays. Go figure. But you don't drive with your head down. You don't do an inspection with your head buried in a checklist either. It's meant to be reminders, a prompt more than anything else. Time and time again, we see it lots with checklists, is that people will walk along, but the problem is when they're walking along looking down at that checklist, they're not looking at what they're supposed to be looking at. And what I mean by that is, what is the rest of the job site looking like? Another way I know how to do this is with Site Report Builder. Now, I've done full videos on it before and advertisements. Yeah, I'll leave links in the description, but I found this is also super easy for doing inspections as well. I can take my inspection checklist as I'm going along and I get to an area. I can still make notes, but one of the things I can do is I can grab my phone and shoot a quick video and quickly narrate it. And I can say something like, if, for instance, in this report that you're looking at, I found a ladder's on its side, not being stored correctly, not standing up and down, and the breaker panel door would not close properly. So recorded 2 videos and the AI stripped out the error to put underneath the heading. A step ladder was observed stored on its side incorrectly, and a circuit panel door is not closing properly. There you go. And then what it did is it churned out a couple of recommendations, recommending proper storage of the step ladder and making sure people are aware of it, and making sure that the circuit panel is correctly repaired. So realistically, not that difficult, pretty easy stuff. And Site Report Builder has done the Provoking Safety community a service. And what they've done is they've given us, all you have to do is put Kevin25 in the checkout, and you get 25% off Site Report Builder and the use of it for 6 months. And honestly, it works excellent. It churned out that report in like that. I bet you it took me longer to record the videos, honestly. It's so simple. I can't get over it enough. And it's just a matter of dragging the videos in, and tweaking the report, and that's it. Like, honestly, that report took me 5 minutes. tops, 5 minutes. So once again, use the account code Kevin25, and there'll be instructions in the description. Or if there's no more available, there was only, I think, 100. And so if there's no more available, then what you can do is you can use the account code Kevin, and it'll give you 10% off for life. You can weigh your options, choose whichever is going to work best for you. The other thing is with Site Report Builder is you can try it free for 30 days or about 30 minutes of video altogether, or 30 minutes of transcription if that's the case as well, if you want to look at it like that. But you can try before you buy. And once again, if you like it, then use those account codes Kevin25 or the discount codes Kevin25 or Kevin and get yourself a discount. Now, just before I cut it off here, there's a few things you want to avoid during an inspection. Number one, not tying it to hazards, okay? I said it before and I'll say it again, inspection should be about looking at emerging hazards, existing controls and that they're working, and any other unsafe conditions in the workplace. That's what you're looking for, okay? Not compartmentalizing them. What I mean by let's all inspect the whole entire job site right now. No, okay? If you have to inspect the job site once a month, then fine, break it up a little bit, and then you can create those small, tiny reports like I just showed you, and easy peasy. Okay, I'm not saying you can't inspect the whole entire job site, but think about it. Compartmentalizing it might make it a little easier. Not only that, if you have to split the work up with the safety committee, there you go. That's another secret too. Lumping in operations. So I'm talking about operations, maintenance, and aesthetics into your inspection. Big mistake. Don't do it. Keeps your checklist small too, by the way. Those 5 fields, that's it. And stating normal and safe, okay? Use exceptional documentation. And then the other mistake is not interacting with workers. Okay, so once again, okay, 5 fields. Life safety devices, access-egress, working pathways, building components and assets, tools, equipment, machinery, and materials, and then finally workplace habits and working function, right? How workers are working. Now, if you want to know more about things to avoid in the work and doing worksite inspections, have a look at this video up here. It's considerably shorter, but I wanted to include lots about inspections here because I see them done wrong, lots. And so, yes, inspections are work. But you shouldn't treat it like, oh, we'll whip through the checklist, or it's, oh God, inspections. They're an integral part to any safety management system and your safety program. So be a safety leader. Put value to inspections because if you do it, other people will as well. Okay? Take care. Bye for now.